from the Pathway Studios in Johnston proper. You are live from the Path.
And you're listening to Live from the Path. We're coming to you from the Pathway Studios in Johnston proper. Brought to you this week by RC Cola. That's Royal Crown Cola, the cola of choice of Live from the Path.
Have y'all ever actually had RC Cola?
Oh, yeah.
I have.
For sure. I don't think I've ever
What
had
kind
it.
of question is that?
I don't think I've ever had it.
Okay, we've recently, I saw this on the complaint line, we've lost the sponsorship of RC Cola based upon the start of our advertisement. And Booba goes, have you even had this? Because I have not.
The best cola around.
Yeah. Thank you and farewell, RC Cola.
I was giving you guys an opportunity to tell me how great it was.
It's not that great.
It's crisp. It's refreshing.
No.
I don't think this sponsorship was going to last a very long time anyway.
Okay, they bailed appropriately. This has been Foust. You're listening to Live from the Path. Thanks for hanging out with us this evening. Here's what we got going on the show. So big question of the day. We were talking about Jesus is interacting with a couple of fellers, and one of the things that he says is, dude comes up and says, Lord, I'm going to follow you here, but let me bury my father. And Jesus says, let the dead bear their own dead. And it seems like a harsh thing to say. And I will continue. So we'll reset the scale once we start talking about it, but it is both less harsh than what you think and more harsh than what you think. But it brings out the question, in your own lives, are we evaluating for a but first? So God says, here's the thing that I want for you. Here's the way I want you to go about your life. And you say, sure. I'm in. I love what you're saying. This sounds great. But first, I'm going to go do this thing. And it could be a big thing that big goal of yours that you got on your mind. Or which I think is likely in my case, I'd have to put a little bit more thought into it. But it's probably a pretty steady evidence of how my time is being used, where I've got a bucket of things that I know are good, that God would call good, and I go, yeah. But first, I'm gonna do this. So it's not like a follow me, don't follow me. It's a probably a fealty and obedience thing on a daily basis is probably where mine lives. But anyway, I thought maybe we'll talk about that. Yeah, see how that hits you. Also, there was an article in the news this week. I don't know, I'm kind of curious about what it felt like. There was an article that said, can you be born again without feeling it?
Ooh.
Yeah, actually that leads to an interesting, we'll probably read that article, but I was thinking about this the other day, that I tell people that their feelings can't be trusted. But one of the things that God promises is peace. And peace in my mind is a feeling of peace, And so it's not that all feelings can't be trusted.
I think you can feel it, but not actually be born again.
So you're
Did you just your own statement?
That's deep.
Dan is his own theological hype man.
But Dan!
Did I say that?
Jeez.
I think you can feel it and not be born again.
Takes off the arm floaties and heads to the deep.
That was hot. Hot takes with Dan. Woke or toke, Dan?
Okay.
I
It
really
would be super
my
interesting
comment.
because there's all kinds of people that have a feeling of that, right? Can all feelings not be trusted, or can some be trusted? You say only feelings from God can be trusted.
No. Yeah, actually. So let's get into that. What do we mean when we say your feelings can't be trusted, and how should that relate to spiritual tinglies in general?
Mike, did you just your own statement?
I didn't I said because a thought occurred to me is first of all, we got to talk about whether that is even theologically correct.
Is it theologically correct to say that your feelings can't be trusted?
Yeah.
Okay.
We got any biblical basis for that, or we just said the feelings in this world are so off and weird that it's best to just shelve 99% of them.
Oh no, okay, yeah, I can answer that. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we'll get to that.
I have a question too.
Okay.
What the heck are the Nephilim?
Yeah.
I know that came from somewhere, but oh boy, nice job, Booba.
It said Nephilim.
So reading through Genesis the last couple of days, and Genesis 6 mentions the sons of God mixing with the daughters in the world. And
Eyebrows.
Nephilim, full capital there.
Yeah.
Nephilim, whatever. And then I also have
Nephilim.
Yeah, it's Nephilim. And then I also have my sister-in-law asked me that same question like a month and a half ago. Randomly, she texted me and asked me, "Hey, what do you think about the Nephilim?" And I was like, "Oh boy, I don't know if I'm prepared for that question."
Let me find one and ask.
Yeah, so
Hello, sir.
right, exactly. I wanted to figure out what we're thinking through that thing,
Okay.
And what's going on in Genesis 6.
Okay, will you once you get it ready? Once you pull it up
Yeah,
and
I
let's
got it.
read this. Okay, good.
Remember
I have
when
a
you
theory
said
on it.
Nephilim? You sounded so dumb.
It reminds me of an Elvis song where it goes, "I'm caught in a trap, I can't walk out."
No, keep going, Ben. We love this. Yeah,
I'm
keep
gonna
going.
commit to it. I'm committed.
You're going to call Elvis and try and get that demonetized too?
Because I love you too much, baby.
Here's the deal. I know that song, but it drives me nuts at how long and how many times he repeats that specific musical phrase.
Why can't you see
It's over and over again for like 7 minutes.
what you do?
Caught in a trap.
Okay, I knew we were doing it. All right, anyway, and then we're going to do some advice on Dear Life from the Path. Great news, I think, for Mike.
Ooh.
Nobody submitted a video onto the complaint line this week, so Mike is not required to do a 15-minute exercise program of your audience selection.
No, you're taking that in wrong.
I was
You just
totally
didn't
gonna
say
do
the
that.
second half of that bet. That means it's our choice if no one else selects.
It is
our choice.
You have to. You
tell
needed
you.
to have submitted it on the complaint line.
Yeah, it's already come and gone.
It's yoga.
Here's what I'm saying: as I hear you guys and your complaint line, pushing to the side of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you've done, and you've missed out.
Once again, I've disappointed myself.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
We really need to take a couple of bits from this show tonight of all the random noises everyone has made so far, because Ben just went. After Dan went. Mike is like, oh. Nathaniel has repeated everything.
Okay. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cut them. I'll find them, and we'll cut them all up and superimpose them over a man looking at a rotisserie chicken at the Walmart.
Hey man, speaking of Walmart,
Hold the door.
This is great. Nobody does ringtones anymore, but we should do Live for the Path ringtones. They're just
True.
random like
People call and it goes, etouffee, baby.
a crawfish.
Okay. All right. So out of the gate, the question is there a but first in your life? So back to the story of Jesus. Jesus talks to the guy and he says, let me bury my dad. And Jesus says, let the dead bury their own dead. So couple quick things. I think there's multiple options as to what he's talking about. I do not believe that the dad has just died or something. Like even in cultural context, like family member dies, certainly dad dies. There's like a mourning time. They're staying home. They're not like out wandering around talking to itinerant preachers, picking up milk at the market or anything like.
Oh, the whole thing's within 24 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like. Yeah.
Right. They're going to bury the next day. They're going to mourn the night over. Like people will bring things. They're not going to be out and about. So like it's not that dad dies and Jesus goes, no way, man, you follow me or nothing. Okay. So I think there's two likely scenarios. The first one could be, when you bury in that culture, the body's going to sit in the tomb for like a year, and then the bones are going to be moved to the ossuary box. And so, like, he could mean my dad has been dead for a bit now, but, like, it's my responsibility after the year's up to go move the bones, and so let me do that. Could be. It could be that his dad is healthy. There's no problem with him at all. And what he's basically saying is, like, once
any minute.
Yeah.
Any day.
Once my dad dies, which could be 2 hours or 30 years, then, like, I'll fulfill my family obligations, and then I will go follow you. So I think it could be either one of those last two things seems most likely to me. However, what Jesus responds back to him is basically says, let the dead bury their own dead, which is super offensive, right? Because not only does it say, I'm asking you to forgo your familial responsibilities, which were real responsibilities, right? Like this is nobody else can say what Jesus is saying. It's a very cavalier thing to say. No rabbi in his right mind would say, don't ignore the fifth commandment, honoring your mother and father, and come follow me. So like Jesus is saying something very unique here. But then he insults the family that remains by basically saying, if you follow me, this is life, and remaining behind is dead. And so let the dead bear their own dead. So, but the crux of the reason he tells the story is that like you're put to a question of, Jesus or God is directing you to go do something, and you do have to make a decision. And do you have any but first? But first, I need to attend to this thing. But first, I'm going to achieve this thing. But first, I'm going to focus on this, and then I will do the thing that God is pointing me to do, or that Jesus is asking me to follow him in doing. And so, to I think Nathaniel's initial question, do you have any but firsts? Does anything jump to mind?
So I think about this in like the guy's calling was so clear. And I don't know that folks nowadays feel as if their thing, because like when he said follow me, he meant both in the metaphorical capacity and like physically, we're leaving. You come with me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so like the stage was already set for the guy, and he knew what all that meant. And it seems like most people, like if I were to sit down and talk to most Christians, I would say, well, what does God have you doing? And most of them probably don't have much of an answer. Like they're like, I don't know. And there's caveats, right? Because you're like, look, not everybody's going to be a Moses and a Daniel, right? Some people are just going to be sheep in and sheep out. But the question usually boils down to, did you ask him? Did you ask him what he wanted you to do or what he had for you? Like, did you spend any time at all discussing it with him? Or you're just like, look, God will show up with a big hot air balloon and a sign and tell me, to point me in a direction.
I do wonder if that's right, though. Like, he did not know anything else, really, except for Jesus saying, follow me. Right? Like, think of how varied the next 3 years is going to be in Jesus' life. I don't know that he actually knew. He just knew that the same thing that, Peter knew. And
what do you mean? You think the guy didn't know that it would mean, like, leaving town with him when he leaves?
It may mean leaving town with him when he leaves, but I don't know if does he know what it actually means to follow him?
Well, that's even better. Town? Like it's a clear direction, right? Like you're saying, hey, come with me to the store.
Yeah.
Like you're like, okay, I can make a decision because I know what's going to happen next. We're going to go to the store.
Yeah.
But if you say, be with me, friend, like you're like, I don't know what that means.
Pharmacy?
Like always, or like when you're sad, or I don't understand completely what we're talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
Or like, I mean, is that a language thing between, or cultural thing, or like does follow me obviously mean coming from a rabbi that you will be my student now?
It was a clear kingdom talk going on
Yeah.
there. Yeah, come be part of my community and my kingdom and follow me. I mean, I'm your rabbi. Let me be your teacher.
Yeah. So the question is like, one, do people in general like feel like they know what God is asking of them, apart from the normal view of just obedience? No, I don't
think people know that.
Yeah, and I don't.
Church. No, really. No, yeah. I mean, I think the church has screwed this up the last 50 years or so. Mm-hmm. We've called them to a conversion moment. We've called them to a prayer, to a squeezing of a hand, to a raise, say howdy do at a concert, and not to repentance and not to obedience. And we've it's our fault.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I guess I would ask why would you even separate those out? Why do I have to ask, what does God want me to do, separate from the clear biblical calls to obedience? Because I don't know that that's not what Jesus is asking, right?
Yeah.
Like it could. I don't know that I would have to. That I feel like you have to separate those things.
Yeah, because I mean, John the Baptist running around preaching a kingdom of repentance and baptism of repentance, and he was paving the way, and Jesus basically took the reins and said, "Yeah, let's keep going. By the way, the kingdom's right here. It's right here.
Yeah,
let's do this."
Oh.
And
so from the complaint line, it's a comparison between, because in that same chapter we were talking about the centurion. And like the way that the centurion views, like he was set up to have no ties, right? Like on purpose, because ties were a distraction, right? Centurion could not have a wife.
Yep.
So anyway, the complaint line says, maybe with the man that maybe the dad that was maybe dead, maybe alive, was treating following Jesus as if Jesus was a centurion. In one of the previous stories, we talked about how the centurion couldn't have a wife, so he had no distractions, no ties. But Jesus doesn't ask for no ties. In fact, he sort of insists upon them, because if you don't have ties, how can you share the good news? Jesus doesn't say no ties, just put him before those ties.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's right. And so, and it's a good point too, because I think oftentimes the starkness of what Jesus said is, you do have to let him be a teacher. Like even pastorally, you say a very clear thing, and it's the thing that people remember. Are there nuances and caveats, and does it have to fit within a grander narrative? Yes, but do you remember the thing where if pressed between like that the king does demand fealty, and it does prominence in your life, and so yes, I think that's right. I think that's a right thought. And so, but so I round it back though. Do you, Nathaniel, how did this hit you? Did you have a reaction to thinking about, do I have a but first? God, I want to do, I'm going to do, I have to do this?
Yeah, it kind of circled back around to what we were talking about last week with the spiritual disciplines.
Yeah.
And just being disciplined in general, where I said that usually when I'm on a path of discipline, that I'm disciplined in multiple areas at once, and when I'm not, everything falls apart, and I'm disciplined in nothing at all. But usually when I'm being disciplined, it's in one area or a different one where I'm, being disciplined, I don't know, like more specifically, like I'm delving into one specific area more than the others.
Yeah.
And so like, I feel like right now there are certain things where I'm like, okay, I'm trying to, accomplish this specific task. And then once I get that done, then I'll really, delve into growing deeper or reading with more, what's the right word?
Like intentionality?
Yeah, intentionality.
Focus.
And like not just to read and take things in as they hit me, but like if I don't understand something, to study.
Right.
Yeah, Ben and I were talking about this on Sunday. Where like if something, in the recent past, if I come across something, I'm like, like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I guess I'll move on. Which is such a doofusy way to read the Bible. And yet I do it. Because I say to myself, someday I'll have time when I'm not working on all these other things that I'm trying to be disciplined in. Which is real dumb.
Yeah.
But that's my but first.
Yeah, I think actually mine was, as I think about it, mine is similar. Is if I think of some very basic and clear calls upon my life, and that interact with how I order my day or what I do first. This goes back, Mike, to what you were saying last week, which is around your wife saying like, why do you allow your work to dictate when you get up in the morning?
Yeah,
right. Why do I allow my work to tell me when I'm going to stop reading, whether I have time to read my Bible in the morning, whether I have time to pray with my wife in the morning? Now those are, it's kind of like the honoring your parents. I have responsibilities with my job. It lacks integrity to not work when I'm supposed to be working. Those things are both true, but like I have basically allowed that at times, or on the front end, not gotten up early enough or whatever, to say, okay, let me take care of this stuff first, and then I will go do the stuff that God wants me to do. Now, like, I don't think you have to do the big prayer early in the morning. I don't think you have to read the Bible in the morning. It interacts with the thing. But like in general, if I don't get some of that stuff, if I don't do it kind of first thing, I'll lose it. I won't do it the rest of the day. I won't come back and do it. And like all the other good and awesome things that are in my life, my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids, my responsibilities as a person in my community, pastor, whatever, like even pastoral study, to the extent that I do that and go, God, I'll get to the personal prayer time eventually, but like I'm on the hook for this. But like it's not quite what that doesn't feel like I'm putting the follow me first, even though some of those things are part of following him. That's where I think this gets a little bit murky. But I do at least have a gut feel that my life is not ordered correctly, and doesn't reflect what I know to be relationally positive with God in the right priority. I will allow other things to overtake that. And so I'm saying, yes, God, I'll pray, but first I'm going to make oatmeal for the children or something.
Yeah, I think maybe mine's probably along the same lane, but like the follow me part is what sticks out, right? Like I don't know that, like I'll say, but first I'm going to go do this. I want your opinion on it. Like I want God to say, yes, this is good, or yes, this is bad. But not so much like we're walking, like I'm behind him, following what he's doing. We're just going to walk parallel paths, and I'll look over at him every once in a while and say, are we still, am I in the right direction? Opposed to, look, I was considering doing this, or what's going on in my life. I'm going to do this thing. Is this, do you want me involved in this, right? Like, what do you have for me to do? Like, am I just following where you're going and asking you what I should be doing next, or just flat out doing it and then just checking in every once in a while? And like, that doesn't seem so bad, really, because like God gave us a mind to work. But like coming up on our feelings thing, right? Like you can easily be deterred based on how you feel, what you think, like information that you got that might not have been great, like all these things. And so like mine's probably, just for me personally, I just feel like I would like to spend more time like asking before I do a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think a lot of that is, I know that like we probably said it 1,000 times, there's nothing holy about getting up in the morning, firing out some prayers, but like, it certainly ain't unholy. And what a great way to start your day. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really just think but first I have so many other time commitments. Like I'm going to do all these things, and I'm not willing to cut any of them. And whatever's left of the day is what I can offer. And so like that seems way out of bounds, out of line, out of proportion, right? Like I just feel like the first fruits go to him, and I've never been great at that. He's always gets whatever time I get left over from all the other things. So like, unfortunately, I think my but first thing is literally everything else.
Right. All right.
I would say that my but first moment is that there's no way God is asking me like more than just the obedience stuff until I'm a better person.
But first let me be a better person,
but
and then I'll do your
let me
stuff.
figure this out, because I've convinced myself there's no way God picks me for his baseball team. Okay, like it's PE and I'm on the sideline. Like there's no way God picks me. No way. And so I think to myself, okay, if God wants me to be doing stuff for him and calling out his name, it has to be like when I'm better. Like, because I couldn't possibly represent him in any way, shape, or form. Like, I can not to say that I'm responsible for being his PR guy. I'm trying to do God a favor by going, you don't want me.
Yeah,
like
I'm going to screw this up royal.
Yeah, well, just like, God, I understand that you're perfect, and like, I'll never be good enough, but like, you just trust me. You don't know. You don't want me on your team.
Yeah, the grace is enough. I'll take the grace.
Yeah, I'll take the
I thought
grace.
that was really generous.
Yes, thank you,
The
Lord.
grace and mercy part.
That was really awesome of you, and I trust that there's no situation in which I am at a net negative with you, because I will always be that because of who you are. It's not something I can earn. It is impossible for me to earn what you're giving. And I accept that. I accept that, and I appreciate that. But that doesn't mean that you should pick me for your team. I'm thankful I'm not getting kicked to the curb.
Yeah.
But I think that's what I believe is the best for me, is I'll accept God's grace and his forgiveness, but I could not possibly represent him out in the field.
Yeah, I don't know if I should be like the salesman of this operation.
Right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like, I believe God can redeem everything. I just don't believe that I'm good enough for the redemption.
I think that's legit.
And so I think that's one of the biggest things that's been hitting me recently, has been like, I'll be obedient to you and try and figure this out, to accept your grace and to understand your glory and to glorify you for who you are. But like in the quiet, because I can't imagine a situation where you'd want me to be the one that's on your team.
Yeah, I don't know why, and this is a legit struggle, like for a lot of people, and I would put myself in the same boat. Like, you are so thankful to get back to the net neutral.
Yeah.
You know, that like I've done so much, and like I continue to fail. And God's like, I don't even see you this way. And you're like, I don't know how that's possible. I believe you've gotten me to the net neutral.
Right, yes.
Right? There's no way I'm saying that your grace don't exist, but like the fact where he goes, and I want to bestow the gift of prophecy on you. And you're like, no, I'm not in a gift receiving time of life.
You
right?
can cover my sin, and you can get me to a place where I'm not positive or negative. But there's no possible situation where you have the power to take someone like me and turn it into a positive.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, right. It's interesting because sometimes the people's but first is like, I don't want to accept your rescue because I'm not good enough. And like we would be very firm against that. Like that's the wrong way to, even logically, it's the wrong way to think about it. Right. But then the rescue exists and you accept it. And now the but first is okay, but now let me clean myself up for your service.
Which is crazy, right? Because the promise was never just the rescue. That is not theologically correct. The promise was always adopted as sons. The promise was always lifted up, right? And the promise was always and. And
he showed up more than anyone ever expected. In all situations where there was a covenant set, God showed up and even more. Every time that there's been a situation in which I've prayed for something and God has answered it, it has always been more than I could have imagined. I was asking for too little because I thought that thank you. I don't deserve your grace and your mercy. You give it to me anyway. If I could just get like $1.50, I'd appreciate that. And God shows up and he goes, no, you're going to get this. And I'm going to overflow what you've done because you don't even ask the right things. And I'm a good father, and I'm going to give you more than you could even imagine.
Yeah, so like we panhandle for rescue, and then we panhandle in service.
Yeah.
When the king is offering much more than that. And so yeah, it's interesting. Some people's but firsts are, let me go live the life. I think you're going to take something away from me. And so let me go to college.
Right. Yep.
Let me do the stuff that I'm going to do. And then I'll come back and I'll settle the family thing and I'll find a lovely lady. And then I will go back to church and I'll do the things. Some people's but firsts are like, because they want to be a butt first, right? So like there's that. And then, but interestingly, in the Christian realm, oftentimes we're not, thank you. Oftentimes our hesitance is a lack of feeling worthy for service, which is so interesting, right? Because our service to God in his kingdom is largely a demonstration of him anyway.
Yep.
Right? And so it's a willingness problem. It's in our fallibility, I trust that God will use this for good. And so just so you didn't have to polish yourself up for the redemption, you don't have to polish yourself up for the work of the kingdom. God will sanctify as he goes, totally. But like, so yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting because that's generally not the tenor of it. But the but first is help make myself in the best situation to serve you in a way that I believe to be best.
You know how much of a robbing that is too, right? Because like it's hard to get. I wouldn't say that you're excited for the redemption, right? Like I'm wowed by it. I'm overwhelmed by the fact that exists, right? But I'm never like super excited for the redemption I've been given. What I'm super excited about is the stuff that God's going to do, or that I get to see that God gets to do. And like we really downplay that, you know, like you're like, look. When we talked about the Holy Spirit being like this crazy friend that picks you up on Friday night in a car that don't belong to him and going to an unknown location with no plan, he's half telling you what's going to happen, but not the whole story. And so you're like, I am so riveted and excited by whatever this journey is going to look like because this is going to be so awesome. And we don't ever like buy into it because we're so caught up on the grace and the redemption and how bad we are and how much damage we probably have caused and how great God is for giving it. Where he's like, yes, but we have more, you know, let's do that. And like, we end up like doing nothing, right? Like you look at the 80-20 in the church most of the time, the 80 is either lazy or like they just got no room, bandwidth to be excited for what the Holy Spirit and God is saying. Look, I invited you to way more than this. Right? Will you just spend some time with me so we can talk it over and we can figure it out? And like you can go and like cause some holy trouble and see some action. And like it feels like we're just either in comfortability land or say like, I got the grace. That has to be enough. The grace has to be enough because anything more than that, I certainly don't deserve. I didn't deserve the grace.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Hey, maybe you got something.
Does Dan have one?
Dan, did you have one?
I was sitting here trying to think, and I'm almost the flip side of the coin. I'm my own worst enemy, and that I just do everything. I just like my little lost puppy hopping around, following every voice, and so I mean, there's no to the point I'm a detriment to myself. I sleep like 4 hours a day, and it's like because I have so much I want to do. There's so much to do, and I could probably be way more efficient if I would just shut up, and sit down and listen, get some honest direction and I just want to do everything.
Right. So the picture of, hey, follow me. Some people are saying, yeah, but let me do this first. Dan's the guy like running ahead where Jesus is like, wait, Dan.
We weren't even taking a left
I'm
there.
not going there.
It's just hang tight, brother.
I've got people over there, Dan. I don't
Which
need you
which
there.
honestly, like it's refreshing, right? Because that could be just as much of a wheel spinner as doing nothing, right? Like you could literally expend every energy you had, and God's like, if you'd just taken the right, like I tried to tell you about taking the right, and you were so busy balling out there doing lefts that like I'll send somebody else. But seriously, Dan, listen to me.
Yeah. It's just interesting because like culturally, there are far less precocious balls of gospel fire compared to people sitting on the sidelines going, well, I'm going to do this first, or like, I'm probably not going to do anything at all.
Can we get that on a T-shirt? Precocious ball of gospel fire.
I think it's so.
Yeah. You can do the tattoo, Dan. I won't trademark it.
I would love to
Come back, Dan.
the Apostle Paul guy, who goes from town to town and just doesn't have a home and just keeps going.
Yeah.
But he's so much smarter than me. See, because I didn't take the time to become a Pharisee first or whatever. Whatever.
Right,
I mean,
right.
That's where you
he's a
messed
smart
up,
guy.
Dan.
What's that?
I said that's where you messed up, Dan.
Well, I mean,
you should have spent the first 40 years becoming a Pharisee.
I mean, I study, but I'm not that guy. I'm just not wired that way. And then I frustrate myself, and then I just get more active and more, I'll overcompensate by like, well, if I join 17 groups, that'll make up for the fact that I can't, do whatever.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's just the other side of the coin.
Yeah,
It's
Dan's
still
the other way.
frustrating and
It's extremely funny to me because like when we'll do 24/7 prayer rooms, right? And you'll go in there and you'll pray for an hour and you're like, this is so refreshing, right? And then you'll be like, I got to get another hour. And then like you spend quality time in there and you're like, man, this is so great. As you sit there and look at this opportunity that exists every day of your life, right? As you go, man, if someone would just corporately put on a 24/7 prayer room, I could pray like this, and like it's so weird because you're like, I feel like I'm in tune with what God is doing. I feel I have the presence of God in my life. I'm asking him questions. I'm waiting for answers. I'm reading my Bible. I'm worshiping. And then as soon as the prayer room concludes, you're like, well, back to the grind, and like as if it's not a possibility in your day-to-day life. An hour probably is aggressive, but like tell me you got more than 10 minutes in it in the regular day, right? Like 10 minutes in, you're like, okay, God, I got responsibilities here. We talked a bit. You'll hit me up if everything's cool. I'll see you later. Bam, I'm out. And like that's just a solid miss as I talk to the group and talk to myself. Like it's just what didn't even make any sense.
Based upon how much YouTube we take in collectively from last week's conversation, hey, I get real antsy about 7.5 minutes of praying like, oh boy, I feel like I got to get moving on to whatever other things YouTube awaits.
Yes, and we talk about it, like, look, we don't want to be all religious about this, about saying you got to do this and this. Well, why don't we err on that side for a little while? Why don't we just try it out? Why don't we be super religious about it? Be like, look, man, you need to be in there for 45 minutes every day. Let's see what kind of fruit comes out of that tree.
Yeah.
Instead of being so afraid that we might accidentally look like a religious jerk from 50 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe we should just land on the side of, you know what? Maybe they had an idea.
That's a good point. Like because some guy measured a pant length on a 40-year-old woman 40 years ago and caused a real hustle about it.
Yeah.
We're trying not to be too dictatorial on, hey, you should probably pray for a bit today, friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here's the thing. It's like, I know it's hard to find, right? Like you think it's hard to find, but you'd be amazed at the things you can cut out of your day that don't even need to be there. They're not life-giving. They're not peace-altering. They're just there. And like you're like, but this is behavior that I feel like a Christian should have. Yeah, but maybe God said, that's not the behavior I want you to have, right? Like, cut it out. You're done in the Kiwanis. You're out. You're done. It takes up too much of your time. You need to start praying. Stop Kiwanis. You're like, but I meet people. I spread the gospel there. Jesus goes, I know. Stop it. I need you talking to me and sending you to places where I have for you. And like I never do this, and I find it like so logically ridiculous that I don't know how I continue to do it.
Yeah.
I went to Kentucky last week to
Without asking God. Continue.
Well, I was for a board meeting for Hippo Valley Christian Mission, the orphanage I work with, and I wrote out a schedule. The last second, the guy goes, "Hey, you should write out what you're doing." Okay, whatever. And I made this list, and it's just like, holy crap! I mean, like I'm going, I'm traveling all over the place for him. I'm going to California here this fall, and Nashville. I'm going to Minnesota. I've been several places. I'm just, and it's like, well, I'm also like have a church here, right?
Yeah.
So I'm doing that, and like depending on what page I'm on, it's like I can pour myself 150% into it, but you can't do it all.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like I don't sleep. I'm just like, we needed a truck, so we've raised $100,000. It's like, how the heck? I'm not that guy, but but still, at some point, I can't do everything. I don't know if I'm making sense to you. My brain just, the wheels are just firing, and I'm like, I could probably be more productive.
Yeah.
If I like trimmed something here and something there, and I usually wait till I implode, and then I shut down for a month, and I'm like, okay, then I build back up again.
Yeah. Well, those are a lot of times those are key opportunities. Like it can't be that when Dan's sick for 10 days, all the balls fall out of the air, right?
Yeah.
So like creating other people to throw balls in the air,
right.
Because like they're all awesome balls. They're all right things to have going on. They just can't all be on Dan.
Fortunately, I have a team of people that can preach. I got all these people covering here.
Yep.
While I'm gone, and I mean, I built depth in the team, the Zimbabwe team this year. So like, there's different people doing different things.
Yep.
And it's like, as I was gonna say, I still. And then it hits me that last week, like, well, crap, I didn't really need to go back to spending a day a week with my grandson because what's your greatest ministry but your family? Like, so I scheduled that out for the next month, and I was okay. Here's my day, like, So if I come in, my head's blown up someday.
It'll be that,
and I did it, but it's like just self-righteous, or something. I don't know.
That is tough, right? Because like, I mean, you look down the line, you're like, these are good, these are good, these are good. Yeah.
I think what we're talking about, just to keep it in a mind of accurate, right? Like it's a skill, not a talent, right? You're not born nailing this, right? Like you're gonna, it's a discipline to get yourself in it, and like I've seen it bear fruit, like amazing fruit in people's lives, right? Where they just start spending time with God. And like, you can't do too much of it. You can certainly do too little, right? But you can't do too much. And I think that, once again, I think we always err on the side of, like, is God going to be mad if I didn't read my Bible today? Well, no, it's ridiculous. But like, you also missed out on hanging out with the God of the universe for X amount of time today. And so like, you should be slightly bummed. And you're not going to be, because it's a skill, not a talent. At the first couple swaths, you're not used to it. You're not used to God talking to you. You're not used to having any type of spiritual conversation with God through prayer or Bible reading or whatever. And so, like, yeah, it's going to not hit you right off the bat. But, like, it's a conversation that he wants to have. And, like, we just continually dance around it or set up classes or set up acts of service. And, like, I just feel like that's the main thing. Like, if everybody was doing that individually, like, preaching would totally be way more beneficial to everybody, right? Like, you get to walk in and go, I've been talking to God all week. I wonder what God's been talking to Dan about. Mm-hmm. And, like, go, wow, it was funny because I was just reading blah, blah, blah on Tuesday. Like, that's not what happens. Like, everybody shows up. You have to regurgitate whatever you talked about last week. No one brought any thoughts to the table today. They're just like, how's the family doing? How have you been busy? Your car broke down. Great. Let's get through 1 Peter. And let's take communion and go, right? But, like, can you imagine what, like, a body of believers where everybody was talking to God at the same time, what that freaking looks like what that community gets done?
Yeah.
The last time folks did that, as far as the biblical record shows, the Holy Spirit showed up with fire and tore the place up, right? Like, and these are things that God said, look, I'm not done doing these, right? This is the type of thing that I want to do in you. And, like, it doesn't have to be like this weird hippie commune that you have in your head. It just has to be regular living, spending time with Jesus and going,
hey, I'm trying to follow you. What's that look like for me today? Yeah. Yep. All right, you're listening to Life from the Path. If you got anything to share on the Life from the Path, formerly RC Cola, now currently still Bob Eisenhower complaint line, it's 515-517-0085, 515-517-0085. We'd love to hear your thoughts on, but first, see what you have. So we were talking just before, let's see, at the start of the show here, about this born-again experience. Can you be born again without feeling it? First of all, when we say born again, Buva, what do we mean?
Born again is in born from your baptism, dying to the world and being born again for yourself.
Yeah.
Or for Christ, excuse me.
Yeah, it's a Christian term.
Baptizo.
Yeah, it's what Jesus says this to old Nicodemus. And it's like your life begins again, this time in the kingdom of God, and to never die. And so the article kicks off, evangelicalism has always emphasized the necessity of personal conversion through a born-again experience in which the Holy Spirit supernaturally changes a person's heart. From the 18th century to the present, many evangelical churches have required a personal testimony of conversion as a prerequisite for church membership. And most of the time, this involves a personal experience of divine transformation. But what happens if someone doesn't have this kind of transformative experience? What if a person believes not because of any perceived religious encounter, but simply because of a reasoned conviction about the truth of God's declaration? Are such individuals really saved? And if so, can they still consider themselves Christians? So let's start there. Would you describe what you look at and say is my kind of conversion experience? Did it have some sort of significant emotional event related to it? No, mine did not.
No.
Yes.
Boova's did. Dan, your no?
I'd say no.
Okay. Nathaniel?
No.
Okay. All right. Boova's yours.
I was not expected to be the odd one out on this one, to be honest.
You're a Christian cuddlebug. What happened?
I'm a Christian cuddlebug. I was sleeping with my girlfriend, and we were living in the basement of my brother's house, and I had not been to church for a bit because I was very angry at him about the loss of my parents. And that morning, I woke up for no reason, early on a Sunday morning, which did not happen very often. I'm a creature of sleeping most of the morning through.
Yep.
Felt this call from God saying that I needed to talk to him, and it was time for us to meet. And that he wasn't coming to my house; I had to come to his.
How did you know? Would you say that?
I know.
How did you know?
I know.
It was just a sense.
It's just like it is one of the most sure things I know is that a lot of times when it comes to the stories that I've told and the things that I've pushed, I tend to sensationalize in stories.
What?
I mean, I can not talk if you guys want me to. I tend to sensationalize only because growing up, like it was hard for me to feel like I was seen, and so I would turn to very ridiculous storytelling, and that was my way of feeling like I had a presence. And so that has stemmed from a lot of stuff for me. But one of the only things that I know for certain that I did not hyperbolize, that I did not sensationalize, that I did not change for was the fact that I knew God called me to his house that morning. And I showed up to the church, and I sat in the back, and I was preached to about Esther, and I can't remember any other part of that, but I was bawling my eyes out in the back of the church auditorium, feeling like I was running from him, and it was time for me to come home. And I went up, I think, to you guys, actually. I think you guys were the first ones I told, and told you that, hey, I think it's time for me to get baptized. I think God's telling me it's time. And I think I'm finally broken to the point that there's no way I can do this anymore without him. I'll die. I'll be dead in a year, guaranteed. And I don't want to follow down that path. And I want to mean something to somebody. And I want to actually accept the grace that I know God was giving me in the moments that I didn't feel like I deserved it the most.
Yep.
And so I got dunked. And I remember the water pouring out all over the place. And getting a hug from a guy named Joe. And then I drove home sopping wet and went downstairs to my girlfriend that was sleeping in bed at the time. And I said, good morning. And she asked me why I was wet and if I drove into a river or something. I said, no, I think I gave my life to Jesus just now. And she goes, okay. And I went, I don't think we can be dating anymore and sleeping together in the same bed. And she goes, okay. I said, unless you want to give your life to Jesus, I think we have to break up. And she goes, I don't want to do that. And I was like, I had a feeling you were going to say no to that.
Yeah.
But I need you to realize that, yeah, we're done. I can't stay with you anymore. I got to make some changes. And I broke up with her and I drove her home. And
that had to have been an awkward drive home.
yeah, she told me that she was only dating me because I scared her stepfather, and he had stopped beating her since I dated her. But she thought I was ugly and fat and gross.
Sorry. Just the way you said that.
Mike, what part of me saying
I don't know.
A girl broke my heart?
No, I know. I'm sorry. I tried to apologize.
By hitting me
I can't help
the
it.
most
You're like,
raw places I could have possibly
and she
hit.
said, I'm ugly, fat, and gross. Like, it's just so matter of fact.
Yeah, no, it's totally funny story. Funny into that story.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I told it that way for a reason. Yeah, so that was the day that I gave my life to Jesus.
I mean, that's thankful it came out, right?
What?
Wouldn't you want to know that's the relationship
I
that you
would
in?
very much rather not.
I
know
feel
that.
like you'd rather know.
The relationship was ending. I was not going to go back to it. I did not need to know that she thought I was gross the entire time that we were together.
No, but you didn't know the relationship. She presumably she thought that the day before and hadn't brought it up, and so this is a catalyst for goodness.
Yeah, I mean, agreed. But I've been broken up with many times, and they didn't call me gross, fat, and ugly.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it kind of just ended where they were like, "I don't think this is working out."
I hear what you're saying. Yeah,
I mean, I was the constant was me being gross, fat, and ugly in all those relationships too. So, like, you know.
What I think is fascinating about the story, although the gross, fat, and ugly is
Thanks, Dan.
quite fascinating, is the backstory of what God did to make that happen.
Oh yeah,
I mean, all the coincidences. Like there was a portable baptistry that was brought to the school like twice.
Yep.
I mean, it just happened to be that day, and that a baptistry happened to be there, and all of the things that led up to that becoming a portable baptistry that we had.
And we didn't plan that out. There was no conversation. You and I hadn't spoken in months. I don't think.
Like obviously, which confirms to me that God was obviously speaking to you because he was doing stuff.
Yep.
And so that's kind of cool to is be in the front row of so many stories where God's just moving in the backgrounds of people's lives. It's just so fascinating and. I don't know how people get burned out in ministry because it's just a fascinating life. That's why that goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's like, I mean, I could do it all day. I wish I just didn't have time to sleep because I just loved it. I loved every second of it. It's so cool to see God working. And as crazy as the world is, he is working in people's lives still today.
Yeah.
And now.
And it wasn't my work that I was doing, and it wasn't he wasn't matching up with the things that I was thinking. It was I just got ripped from what I was doing. I was on my way to being dead soon. Yeah. And I was perfectly fine with that.
So that's a cool story, right? But it doesn't sound like anybody else in the room had a similar like emotional flashpoint moment.
I had a moment
of okay, tell me about it.
I mean, like I was in fourth grade. So I was a young guy, and had a stealing club, I steal all the time, and I was at my Sunday school teacher's grocery store stealing a ice cream bar or sandwich, ice cream sandwich, and I had it stuffed up in my arm, and she acknowledged me as I was walking. Oh, hi, Danny. And I said, hey, Mrs. Huberger, and I walked out the door and I thought, crap, and like everything changed. Like I paused on the window outside the door, and it was just like God, I never saw a thing again. I was just like,
did you eat the ice cream bar?
Of course.
Hold up real quick.
Sanctification begins tomorrow.
I said gross, fat, and ugly, and we get chuckle bus over here. But you say something like, I had a stealing club.
This is not the first time this has come up.
Quiet.
Yeah, I've talked about it. We had to go to stores every day and steal stuff, and that's how we got Christmas presents.
How many people were in the club, though, Dan?
2. Nobody else was bold enough. Never got caught. I mean, I could have been a great thief.
Oh, jeez, Dan.
But it was a definitely God moment. It was a conviction from God saying, "No, we're done with this."
Yeah. It was like calling you out from sin and saying,
"Yes,
that
absolutely." It was like, here's a Sunday school teacher that for the last 3 years has been telling you how much I love you, and you've been pushing it off, and it's like, no, I love you, and I demand obedience. I'm like, crap. And so that was a moment for sure.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay. So then the question though is that if you come to an acknowledgement of Jesus is King, God is Creator, and you in need of rescue, and Jesus is the only one who can do that through reason. These are the facts. You took in the facts and said, "Yep, that sounds. I believe this." Should you have any concern that you didn't have an emotional moment related to that?
No, I mean the master invites us to follow him, and we say, "Okay." Whether it was with emotion and gusto or okay, it's still following.
Yeah.
I
Come
mean,
be fishers of men wasn't met with sobbing and Lord, we've changed our entire life. And it's like, all right.
I don't know, and maybe this is not right, but I was just thinking about it. But like the presence of God does feel a way. So like maybe it doesn't have to be tied to like your salvation story, but like if you've been legit following Jesus for 20 years and you can't think of any time that you've interacted with the holy God and it's felt away, I would find that slightly suspicious. Like I don't have I would say that like my salvation story, like God calling me was not in a big dramatic fashion, but I can look back over the last 15 years of my life and say, well, we've had some moments though, right? Like we've had some times when he's really grabbed a hold of me and said, that needs to stop. I want you to pay attention to me here. I know that you're not feeling peace, and it's because you're nowhere close to me. You need to make some changes and put this back as a priority. And like, I don't know that my salvation ever was that way. Like I didn't decide to get baptized because I had like an aha moment. Like I got baptized because I'd always just never questioned that this was a problem, right? That the God existed and I needed to my salvation had to be paid for. And like, where else would I go? Right? It was just that straightforward for me most of the time. Now my life didn't reflect that. And so he refined through moments for sure, you know? And so like, I mean, if you don't have any refinement moments, I would say that's probably weird, isn't it?
Yeah. I expect God to be working actively in your life and there to be situations certainly that you see like that feel like there is that you can point back to. But I don't know, like I think where people get tied up, and frankly there's a risk heading the other way with this too, is that people feel something and they go, oh, well God has moved in me.
That's Hillsong's entire ministry.
Right. That's why we do the fog machine and lights, right? Like we get you to feel a certain way about something, but like people don't tend to fog machine lights and then repent at the same time and acknowledge Jesus. They just like the way what it sounds like Jesus probably looks at them. You find a guy cute because he said you were cute. This is our relationship with the Savior in some of these situations. And so like, this is where we go back to the question of like, can your feelings be trusted? And I think the answer is, they're always, feelings are real. They're real things, right? So but the question is that like, what are they saying to you? Like feelings can be telling you a true thing. They can also be lying. And so it's an evaluation process. Is like the right way to think of it, if you were to extend it out, is just because you feel something doesn't mean that the situation that they're feeling is reacting to is true or accurate.
Yeah, I'm sure there were times my daughters growing up maybe felt like I didn't love them very well. If they were some discipline or a stern moment.
Yes.
But that would have been inaccurate.
Yes.
Well,
Right.
and marriages are rife for this, right? Like
Totally.
we're like your closest relationship on this earth, and like just on a day you can feel like that person doesn't even like me, and I don't even know if I like that person. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's just a feeling that you know is not accurate.
Right.
But my poor wife is tormented all the time. She thinks everyone hates her, and you always have to be like, why do you think that?
That's why. What has brought you to this conclusion?
Do I know it? It's like I'm pretty sure they don't.
Yes. Right.
So yeah, you can't trust that.
Right. And it doesn't. But Mike, I think to your earlier question, it doesn't mean that your feelings can't be true. You can, but you basically have to. They need a second level. They need an evaluation of like, just because I feel this way, is it accurate? Just because, and it can be expressed in the positive. Oh, I think I love this boy. Right. And then you think about it like, maybe I don't actually love him, but he does give me the tinglies. Okay, well, put it into the box. Like that's like the feeling is real. Or I think I love this person but really you just hated so much a different situation with you're in, and this feels a little bit safer. It's not the same thing as love. You do have to evaluate feelings. So just to reiterate, feelings are real. So like, don't ever dismiss that they're not real. The question is, are they reflecting the situation honestly, or are they just one of the inputs into the situation, and they do need to be evaluated? That's what I mean.
The importance of a solid discipline of Bible study. I often have to correct myself with my emotions with God.
Yeah.
Oh, God's mad. It's like, no.
No, right.
This scripture says otherwise.
Right.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you have to evaluate it with the correct tool.
Yes, that's right. So I think to roll it up, I don't. You should not feel like because you didn't have some sort of conversion experience. That even sets it up wrong. It's a very Baptist question.
Yeah.
Right. That to even think that like there's a moment and then there's a moment when you're not. There's a moment when you are. I think that stuff's bigger than you. I wouldn't hyper focus on a moment. Now, it doesn't mean to Buva's story that God can't use moments. Totally can. Often does, because sometimes we need flashpoints to force us to places of which we get comfortable and don't make decisions.
Well, and I think to comment on your statement of like vetting through the emotions and the feelings, I think that's incredibly important, because as I look back, those feelings that I had, the elation that I had, and the stuff like that, it was a reaction to a realization, something logical that had happened. And what that was for me was the first moment in which I felt like I deserved to stay. Like that was the first time it made sense to me that the world was not going to be bettered when I was gone. And I didn't have this concept of permanence because like everything was falling apart. And so I thought, okay, it just makes logical sense for me to be the next bit of this that falls apart. Yep. Like, right? Like I'm the next one in line for this lack of permanence and this going away. And it was the first time that I'd ever truthfully felt like maybe that's not the actual deal. And maybe the situation isn't that things will be better once I'm gone. And I deserve to be here. And it like, I'm not taking away just by breathing. And God telling me that and reassuring me that in that moment of this concept of like, I want you in my house. I'm inviting you to my kingdom. I want you to exist forever with me. Yes. Was the first time I felt like that was real.
Mm-hmm. Because when God reveals a truth that you've had buried, that feels away. Right?
Huge.
Like when he shows up with the exact thing that he knows that you're thinking or that knows what you're dealing with and goes, yeah, I hear every bit of this, right? You instantly go, okay, I'm 100% known. And God says, I see past every inch of that.
Right.
That feels away. Right? Like that has a feeling associated with it. And so like, I'm thinking over in my head because I'm very cavalier about feelings because most feelings get people in a lot of trouble, especially in youth group type teaching settings, right? I'm just like, hey man, you can't be just guided around by what you feel all the time. But like, I don't know that I actually believe that, right? Like I've had good and righteous feelings. I've had feelings of peace. I've had feelings of being enveloped by a holy God, right? Like I have feelings that like when there's a feeling associated with like, is God actually listening to me, opposed to just praying to nothing?
Yeah, I mean they're not mutually exclusive.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. It's just they don't. I just reiterate it. Like they have to be evaluated.
Right.
Like we have to say, is this a trustworthy feeling? Because like it's not wrong. People do often make terrible mistakes based upon a feeling that often, when evaluated in the next morning's light, did not accurately reflect the situation.
Right.
It's part. Okay, think about it this way: your feelings are part of the conversation.
Yeah.
You should listen to them. You should say, "Oh, that's interesting." But it is not the only thing talking.
Yeah, they get a seat at the table. But when they get out of line, you say, "Look, you're being ridiculous."
You have to vet through where they're coming from. Here's the deal. Not to get too bad. You know what feels great? Going to a strip club. It's awesome. It's cool. Like you're like, oh, this is happening. Like this is real. And you know what feels terrible? Being there. And you go, oh, this is kind of gross. Mm-hmm. And the next morning you're like, oh man, I hate myself. Mm-hmm. I absolutely hate myself for this. Were those all feelings? Yes. Did I take them incorrectly? No. Because I had to vet through, where is this happiness coming from?
Yeah.
Where is this
you
joy
inspect
coming
the
from?
fruit.
Where does my shame come from?
Yeah.
Right,
Was there
exactly. You
repentance?
have
Well,
to
no,
look
there
at that.
was not.
Here's the deal. I can get a lot of joy from a jelly donut. Don't get me wrong. Like, I really can. I also get joy from being in conversation with my wife and honoring her. Those are feelings that I can have of happiness, and my heart feels full, and I feel like I'm contributing. But if I vet through, did I get this little pop of happiness from the jelly donut? Yeah, I did. Did I get this happiness from loving my wife? Yes, I did. They're both feelings, but that doesn't mean they can be trusted. But vetting them through and going, what's the source of this? What's leading to this peace? Is this honoring to God? Is this good for me? Am I tending my soul, or am I breaking it apart with sin? Like, all of those things have to be looked through in the correct lens to go, feelings can't be trusted on their own if they're not vetted out and looked through, because you could feel great about anything and you could feel crap about anything.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, and an unexamined I don't want to. This feels hyper technical. It's not. Don't think of it that way. It's just a quick evaluation process. But like, how often, think of your key relationships where like we make bad decisions in key relationships based upon like a feeling, like, oh, I feel like they're mad at me, or I'm mad at this person. But really, if you'd have given it 2 seconds worth of thought, is it possible what you said? I'm mad at them. I'm having a rough go of it, and they were just the last person I interacted with. Right? It doesn't mean you got to write all the things down all the time and be hyper technical about it. But you do have to ask yourself, where is this coming from? Yes. Is this accurate? Who I'm directing it at and what I'm feeling, is it accurate? Because like the emotions can also get jumbled up. Like anger and sadness look a lot alike.
Yeah.
Right? Depression can express itself in either one of those things as a defensive. It's trying to keep people away from getting any further, right? And then you misunderstand your emotions. And so, frankly, this is why we end up talking to people for this kind of thing. So, like people whose job it is to listen to you and go, "Hey, you're playing racquetball and you got 10 balls on the court and you think you only have one," and helping someone recognize that you're playing like you're whacking a bunch of balls around and not making the right distinction. It's very helpful to start seeing the world that way.
And you also do the same thing with your thoughts, right? A thought comes in and you go,
Yes.
That's no good. You know, like you do this all the time. And so like there's no reason to say that like it sounds odd to say, because funny enough, like I was just reading an article today and some lady said that forgiveness is a religious construct and it's only born out of religion to keep people under control. And that's
how I think of forgiveness as well.
Yeah, right. So like on its face, this is completely ridiculous, right? Right. But like the thought is that if people are not, especially in today's culture, open to evaluating their feelings and vetting them.
Yeah, right.
And seeing if they're legit. Like the fact that forgiveness is a construct to keep other people down, it couldn't be any further from the truth. Like harboring anger or resentment towards somebody, you're the one carrying the weight. Right, you're the one that has to carry around the anger and resentment, and like it weighs on you, not on the other person.
Yes, that's right.
And so like, but the thought that says, "Hey, you need to vet and see if that anger or resentment is even correct." The modern thought goes, "Well, of course it is because I had it."
Oh, I get it. The thing that chains people down is the need for forgiveness.
Yes,
not forgiveness in and of itself. It's that you would even consider that you would have to be forgiven.
Yes, or you have to give forgiveness to somebody else. The fact that I would have to forgive somebody for the wrong that they did to me, there's no reason for that. Right? I'm only doing that because religion has taught me that I need to, not because it's for my betterment or for my overall peace.
Which is ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
Right. Peace is found in the fact that I thought of it.
Yep.
And then I came up with it. And so like the best it's the thought that says the best version of me is the one that gets to fire out all my, not even flaws, because they don't exist. I don't have any flaws. I just get to be me, and I am flawless as my true self, right? And, like, you don't have to be but 3 years old to know that is a load of crap, right? Like, you've met yourself. Even in your own best interest, you're an idiot. You know, even when you're out there just gearing the boat for your own selfish ways, you will still screw yourself by doing something stupid.
Listen to this. Pastors, worship leaders, youth workers in the room are still going, I can't seem to prioritize the stuff that I want, that I desperately want, that I know I want, that I need, and still I either can't keep it under control or I can't seem to do it in the way that I want with any consistency.
Yes.
Yeah, and like, we obviously want it. Yeah.
Yes. It's why people will continue to do things that bring them shame and then go, yes, this is fine. I feel good about this. When that's a flat lie. You feel terrible about this. You're trying to mask it by saying you feel great about this.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, if people – it's just such a ridiculous thought, which is why feelings are a tough conversation at the moment, is because like the thought is like because you had a feeling, it can be trusted, and like you don't treat your thoughts that way. And your feelings don't get that same, like they don't get a captain's seat at the table. They're just a participant in your overall actions.
You know, it's interesting is through the therapy that I've done and through the conversations that I've had with people that I trust when it comes to this kind of stuff to right size a lot of the things that I think about at all times, right? Like being trauma informed, which I've used that statement a couple times now, and I've really have latched onto it a lot. Like, I look at my situation that I've gone through and look at the junk that I went through as a kid, blah, 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 whatever, right? We all know it. And in those moments, with that process where it feels like everything's always on fire, like, just because, like, I struggle to have even the base foundation of, like, I deserve to be breathing right now. A lot of people don't deal with that kind of thought. Some people that are trauma people do. For me, it turns into, well, everything's on fire at all times, because if somebody doesn't text me back in a reasonable amount of time, they hate me. They absolutely hate me, and there's no reason. Why would they want me around anyway? I should just delete their number and I should walk away from them. Like, it's ridiculous situations. I say all that to say that, like, some of the most important things that I've learned are the vetting process of this stuff, because nothing's on fire. Nothing is on fire. I can always press the brakes. Like, there's no situation in which in my right mind, when trauma responses are happening and when everything's on fire, the most valid, important things for me are to go back to the very base of understanding of who I am, which is what God calls me and my identity. Those are my stop phrases, which are, here's the deal. Did I screw something up? Possibly. Does God hate me? No. Am I still his son? Absolutely. Can he forgive me for any of this? 100%. Am I inherently the worst person on the planet because of this situation? Probably not. And did I lose all of my worth in the eyes of everyone on this planet, including the creator of the universe? No. Well, if I can look through the lens of my feelings and say, all of that has to be true while I'm feeling this emotion. Mm-hmm. So where is it coming from? Where is it stemming from? Is it because I'm in a fearful situation because of the things that I've lost? Am I in a fearful situation right now where I'm acting out of anger or hatred or self-deprecation and loathing and destruction because I want to take control of this moment to go, well, if everything's going to go down in flames, I might as well be the one who lights the fire. So let's just friggin' bulldoze through it. And that braking system where I go, no, none of that is true. So if I have to look at that and go, all of those things have to stay held, that God still loves me, I'm still worthy of certain things that he calls me to be worthy from. Great. What's going on with my brain right now? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling so depressed? Why am I feeling so worried? Where's my anxiety coming from? Why am I angry? Is my wife actually trying to leave me right now? Or did she just tell me that I did something the other day that made her upset? Logically, I probably did something the other day that made her upset, and she's not actually going to leave me. And so that vetting process that we keep saying, and that concept of feelings have a seat at the table, but they're never the only voice. And they're most likely not the voice that you want to trust on its own. It's got to go through a filter that goes, what's the logical thing happening here? What's the real thing happening here? And what's the truth of the matter? What does God tell me is true?
And this is true for both, like, you individually, and it's like if you have like the opportunity to counsel people in any way, not in like a professional setting, but right, like if you're trying to sort through, people will always tell you this wild tale where the other person has acted in this completely ridiculous manner, and like your first thought, this is where spending time, like conversating with God, like if you try to bring your own crap into this counseling or into understanding other people's problems, you're going to filter it through your own business, right? But like you hand this stuff over to Jesus. You ask him for his eyes throughout the day, like you spend time vetting this thing out, getting your mess out of the way. Then when someone tells you this ridiculous story, you can go, I can tell you right now, their actions don't make any logical sense. Because there is logical sense to the way that people act. And what they did acted completely out of left field.
Right.
So I'm going to tell you something. They have way more going on. This ain't between you and them. This is between them and whatever they're dealing with.
Or, like, there's two options, right? Like, either there's something else going on that's causing them to behave funny, or there's something else that you're feeling right now that's causing you to represent it incorrectly.
Yes. And so, like, you can't have peace on your own unless you're willing to start vetting some of these things out, and you can't help anybody unless you're willing to start vetting some of these things out.
Yeah.
And so, like, the pull is, I know, like, it's the empath part where you're like, hey man, I want to meet them where they're at, right? And like we say that phrase a lot, and you can definitely do that, but they're going to want to stay there, and they can't stay there, and don't even walk into it thinking that you want to help them stay there. You're not going to help them stay there. That's the whole thing. If I have to sum up our culture right now, it is I'm in the mess. I'm going to call the mess something. I'm going to glorify it, and then I'm going to stay here. As long as I can explain it, it's where I need to be, because they feel the same way about their feelings. As long as I feel it, it's the most genuine version of me.
Yeah, even like as Jesus talks about when you're going to mourn with someone, that mourning is a temporary thing, right? Like you join them in the thing that they're in, and then there's a resolution to it, or at least a moving forward to it. Whereas a lot of people, when they like, hey, you're my friend if you're with me in the hard times, even if I want to live in the hard times permanently. And that's no. That's a no. Yeah. And that's the wrong way to define love. And that's where, again, we start getting into things like love and friendship even. We start misunderstanding. We start when Boo was talking, can't be trusted by their own. It made me think of like this representative emotion character trying to get you in the corner. We're going, hey, just talk about this away from everybody else.
Just me and you.
The logic, reason people, the Jesus guy at the table. Let's go in the corner.
Look, we got the real details. Come on.
Yeah. Let me tell you this thing. Right? Okay. And the one other thing, I'll say this, and then we can probably get to some advice on Dear Life in the Path. But like, it'll never show up on the death certificate, but people do die of bitterness. They do. Like the death certificates only show you the last physical thing that happened, that we said, well, once that gave out, then everything fell. But like your emotions are powerful things. Bitterness does start to like make its way through your physical body. Like we're way more intertwined than we think. And this has not been saying magical things. I'm telling you, like when you harbor, we were talking earlier about like forgiveness isn't just for another person. It is for, like, that's how foolish that statement was. That like if you're going to hold on to bitterness and resentment, like it'll start showing up in how you speak. It'll start showing how you take the world in. It'll start showing up in how you physically feel and how well you sleep. How often do they get, hey, you having trouble sleeping? What are your stressors? It's an emotion attached to your physical body. And those aren't the only time those two things are connected. So if you buy that, if you buy the fact that emotional like stressors cause you to not physically sleep well, then I want you to be open to the fact that all kinds of emotions have physical impacts on your body. And so God's drawing you to forgive people, even if they won't accept it. It could be a healing for you. It's for you. It doesn't just have to have, even if someone flat out rejects it, said, no, I don't even need your forgiveness. Okay, well, the forgiveness was for me then, so that I don't carry on burdens that don't belong to me, and bitterness doesn't put me in an early grave and make me ineffective in life because I'm spending the rest of my days on how this person hosed me. Like that, there's healing in that, and it does represent itself physically. And so, without getting all Eastern mystic on you, like
that's the thing. That's not Eastern mystic at all. Like that's straight Bible. Like God will bring that up to you as you read through your Bible. He will put people in your mind and go, "That's got to go."
Yes,
that's in the way.
Yes.
And so, like, yeah, you want to talk about what that spending time with God means, whether it's prayer, scripture, worship, or whatever. Like, you want to hand that time over to God. He doesn't waste the time. He will bring things to you that need to go away, or that need to like flourish, or you need to spend time on. Like all those things. Like he's a good dad who gives good gifts.
I tend to get hit, Dan. I don't know if this happens to you. I tend to get hit when I'm studying to teach. Like I sit down to teach. I pray before I teach, or before I start reading or whatever. And like a lot of times, like Emma, my kids would know this. Like I thought I need to go apologize to one of my children or reconcile. It's like something I've either handled it wrongly or they've handled it wrongly. But either way, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to sit there and read and prepare for teaching the next day or something if I needed to go do that
go
first.
Reconcile with your brother, then come back to the
that's
temple.
That's exactly right. Yep. And God has done that. Like I find that it happens a lot.
I think that's healthy. That shows. I mean, it shows you're actively studying. You're not just presenting something. You're
right.
It's life change for you too. It's yeah.
Agreed.
We're disciples together in this journey, and you're discipling others. And yeah, that would be disappointing if it never happened. Never hit you.
Yes. Yeah. That's right. Okay.
Ready?
Yep. Just again, any feedback for us on that one? 515-517-0085 on the non-RC Cola Bob Eisenhower complaint line.
RC Cola.
Dear Live from the Path. My girlfriend, Jonna, and I have been together for 18 years. We live in a small community. About a year ago, a young single guy moved in next door. Jonna and, quotes, Aiden took an immediate liking to each other.
This is a trailer park. Go ahead.
She's 64 and he's 35.
Wait, what? Wait.
I double down.
Wait.
Does she have cornrows?
No, it's Jana, regular name.
You think Jana?
Jonna. It's in quotes.
Oh, got it.
Okay.
Wait, I've lost the premise now. It's
I'm starting over. Ready?
Girlfriend, 18 years.
My girlfriend, Jonna.
So it's the girl that likes the 30-year-old younger dude.
Yeah, that moved to the
Neighbor.
trailer park.
Okay.
We live in a small community.
Trailer park.
About a year ago, a young single guy moved in next door. Jonna and Aiden took an immediate liking to each other. Jonna's 64, Aiden's 35.
Okay.
Aiden is on permanent disability, has never had a job, and is heavily into drugs. He does odd things, like walking down the middle of the street draped in blue lights and sitting in the middle of the street. The police have been called on him so many times, he's
How is
almost
that odd?
He's almost kicked out of the neighborhood. I don't think you could kick people out of neighborhoods. He and Jonna were together all the time, calling, texting, talking in person. They don't meet so often now because we've had so many arguments about it. I was jealous in the beginning. Now I just don't like her hanging out with him. She still calls and talks to him, but now she does it only when I'm not around. There doesn't seem to be anything I can do about it. He's always outside walking in front of the house. It makes me very uncomfortable. I'd really appreciate any advice you can give me.
Maybe get your own set of lights.
How old is the boyfriend, did it say?
I'm assuming they've been together 18 years. He's probably older, 55, 60.
If you're, oh gosh, if
Also,
you've been boyfriend, girlfriend for 18 years.
Yeah.
First off, that's an interesting situation.
Yep.
You've just been dating for
Yep.
18 years instead of tying any situation. You have expressed that that Aiden makes you uncomfortable. The drug addict, 35-year-old disabled man in your trailer park community next door to you
Yep.
that has almost been removed from the community for walking down the street in blue lights. There's just a lot to unpack from. But like, if you've expressed that, and Jonna just says, "Well, shove off, buddy. I'm going to hang out with Aiden, and I'm going to call him when you're not around then." I mean, that's indicative of, like, it doesn't seem like things are going great in your relationship regardless.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, the highest level of peak of your relationship is dating. Then, yeah, some exciting dude with blue lights is going to show up and take her away someday.
Fifth wheeled on in.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, she's doing drugs with him.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
I mean, obviously.
yeah.
Although he does sound quite attractive.
Listen, even people who do drugs with other people find those people untrustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Yes.
rapidly paranoid.
Absolutely.
And, like, they only hang around them to do drugs.
Yeah, let's hang out in this gutter and do heroin together.
I don't know if you've ever hung out with a drug addict, but they're about as fun as getting hit in the face with baked bean pan, right? Like, you're just like, this isn't fun if you're the sober guy in the room. Yeah. And so, like, he doesn't have riveting conversation. He's probably itching himself all the time. And, like, he's offering nothing but access to drugs.
Yeah.
You're blind, friend.
Jonna seems like the kind of person who might actually own a baked bean pan.
Maybe. I do own only beans in this pan. It keeps the corn out.
I don't have that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what's our advice to this guy? He wants some advice.
It's time to get out.
You should break up.
Yeah.
You should absolutely break up.
I mean, here's the thing. If you're, I don't know how invested you're in this relationship, seeing that you've drugged this out for 18 years with zero commitments. But
In your
if
small community.
you care about this woman, you need to ask her if she's doing drugs. And obviously, I don't know how deeply you love this woman that you've let this pass. But I'm telling you right now, 100% stamp of approval. She's doing drugs with this crazy blue light man.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Secular says, nothing will change until you get to the bottom of why your girlfriend of 18 years continues to pursue this troubled neighbor. Could she be trying to, quotes, rescue him? No. Does she feel motherly toward him and have a need to feel needed? No. Could she have a crush on him? Also no. Those no's were mine. I don't know. And neither will you until you calmly discuss this with her in such a way that she doesn't feel attacked when you bring up the subject. Okay, she's going to feel attacked because she's on drugs.
Yeah, she's a drug addict.
Yeah, there's nothing you're going to say here, friend. I think you owe her the conversation with the amount of life you live together, and she's going to lie to you, and then you're going to go, okay, well, here's the thing. This current lifestyle is not going to work out for me. If you want to come with me as we head for a new life together, I would love to have you, but I will no longer be a part of this weirdness.
Yeah, you are served by your non-committal lifestyle because all you have to do is just leave. Like, if you're just boyfriend, girlfriend, guess what you haven't set up? Any kind of legal permanence other than we got to haggle over who gets the trailer.
Yeah, hook up the trailer and drive it away, friend.
You're good, brother. Get out.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
Dear Live from the Path. I don't like this one. It seems married problems.
I feel like that's 90% of what we talk about.
We got to do time. We got to do one more after this, though. I've been married for 16 years, but after the birth of my first child, our marriage went downhill. My husband withdrew and went out with friends often. When my brother was in the hospital, I traveled 3 hours with my newborn baby to visit him. My husband drove up separately, stayed a few hours, then left to go to a concert with a female friend. Whoa. Our sex life dwindled down to nothing, and I felt like we were roommates. I became depressed and started having manic episodes. I'm on medication now and taking care of myself. I've always resented my husband for this. We have 2 kids now, and I'm afraid if I leave him, it will hurt the children. I tried 3 different marriage counselors with him, but he wasn't interested. I now spend my time doing everything with the kids and focusing on my well-being. I met an old high school acquaintance on Facebook. Here we go. And our friendship has turned romantic. I don't see him often, but when I do, I want to be with him always. We are both scared of what could happen. I love him so much. He is kind, sweet, and caring. Do I wait until the kids are 18 to leave?
Holy cow. I like how she ignored all the other 99 decisions that need to be thought through and goes, just tell me when, though.
Yeah. Your husband's been cheating on you since before you got married.
Yes.
Undoubtedly.
Yep.
When he went to that concert, he was terrified of the marriage that he'd been a part of that was breaking, and that you probably had a kid to maybe try and fix that, and it didn't do anything, and that was his opportunity to go cheat on you again. No other reason for him to drive 3 hours to your sick brother. He doesn't care. And it may be because, like, he's been shamed since then. It's been rough, but whatever. It's just, you guys need to, if you've tried marriage counseling 3 separate times and he's just said, I don't care, he's been checked out of this marriage since before it started.
Yeah, and he's manipulative to boot because he won't be honest about it.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And he'll gaslight you. He'll say that you're the one who's crazy. You're the one he'll probably try and find the conversations between you and your friend, is looking for them, all kinds of stuff. Like, this is.
Well, I mean, to that point, though, this is not a caring, lovely man. He's willing to be entertaining you romantically while you're still married with children.
Right, yes, exactly, yeah.
So
the other dude isn't good for you either. So.
Yeah. That guy's also a real piece.
Do you know what would work here? Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know we don't usually just give that carte blanche answer, but straight up, like, getting into a church community and having fellas that can see this behavior from your husband, you being around strong, Christ-loving women who can help put you up to a place where you are focused more on who God is in your life and how He's your King, is the only way I can imagine that any of this even starts to fix itself. And it's going to take a long and hard bit of conversations that are going to hurt. You're going to break each other's hearts. Things are going to be rough. I appreciate the fact that you're trying to be there for the kids. I do. It sounds like it's only just in statement, though, because if you're out, meeting up with old high school friends, like, it doesn't sound like you're really trying to preserve that. I get why you're not, but, like, it's not really a stance that you're taking that's real.
Yeah, I mean, I do. Like, we're missing all kinds of information, right? Like, this sounds like over, we got 2 kids worth of time, 16, what'd you say, 16 years worth of marriage? Okay. Mm-hmm. Like, how is this guy around day to day? Like, not did he go out with someone else while your brother was in the hospital, but, like, is he around with these children?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it changes direction what you're saying, right? But, like, I didn't get a he's actually a good dad, but I think we're falling apart, or he's also terrible with the children, right? Like, because she brought in children, now I'm not getting a full picture of what's happening.
Well, here's the thing. This is the vetting the feelings thing, right? Like, the phrase that stuck out to me was, our sex life dwindled to nothing, and I felt like we were roommates. I became depressed and started having manic episodes. Like, that doesn't seem like an actual reaction to me. Like, you should be pissed.
Yeah, but most likely what happened was all that was a reflection in her eyes of her own self-worth.
Yeah.
And so
once
it's
again,
really hard to act in anger in those moments. You start to blame yourself, and you start to think, what am I doing wrong that he's wanting to be out
But
with
this is
someone
what
else?
the vetting of feelings would
Agreed,
do, right?
yes. Yeah, no, the identity was never a problem on you before that had happened. Like, he was probably in a place where he was just checked out, or whatever umpteen reasons could have happened that led to infidelity. But, like, I get where that comes from. There is a right sizing that needs to happen, that, like, there is a core foundational identity that you have not called upon or understood yet that can start to kind of at least right size some of this stuff. And I would highly recommend doing everything you can to start following Jesus and having that relationship set up, because he's an arbiter for you between you and your husband. Things will start to, it doesn't get easier by any means, but, like, there is a road to healing here. And I truthfully believe that Jesus is the only way.
Yeah, agree. Nathaniel?
Yeah.
Classic.
Secular says, her final question was, do I wait until the kids are 18 to leave? Secular says, make an appointment to talk with an attorney. When you do, be sure to ask what kind of financial information you may need to ensure you get a fair settlement should you decide to end this charade of a marriage. Once you have the information, tell your husband that the status quo isn't good enough for you and offer one more chance at marriage counseling. If he refuses, and he will, proceed with setting yourself free. Raising children in the atmosphere you have described may be more damaging than getting a divorce. A warning, however, once you become available on a full-time basis, your lover may not be ready or willing to become your knight in shining armor. Be prepared to fend for yourself, just in case.
That was a very cavalier set of advice to say it may be worse.
Right.
Yes, it may be, but I'm not that. I get it. I get it. There's a thought that says, hey, look, man, do we put on this charade just for the children? I don't know that you have to put on your marriage charade, but you should genuinely parent these children to your very best. And that may require you living in a non-romantic relationship with your children in the house.
Yep.
And, like, here's the deal. You should have, whoever's being irresponsible, and it may very well be both of you, are responsible for having brought two kids in here, and you don't get to change that just because you decided to start acting differently 16 years in, okay? And so, yeah, you're both going to have to sacrifice here for the betterment of these kids. What did I hear? There's my wife was telling a story about a couple who got divorced, and the way that you have to have a lot of money to do this particular thing, but the way they resolved it was the kids stayed in the house, and each of the parents owned separate houses.
I've heard of that.
Here's the thing. Then the kids never move.
Yeah.
The kids stay in the same house. I'm not like, whatever, the divorce stinks. But, of the solutions available,
at least there's stability.
That's stability for the children. So I'm sure that costs a lot of money. And here's the deal. Interestingly, think of what you still have to negotiate as a family, right? Like the heat's at 74, the heat's at 68 when dad's in, right? There's still who fixes the refrigerator, who's mowing the grass.
Dad lets us have pizza, Mom.
I see. Now that happens regardless, but you're doing it in the same house. I don't know. I don't hate that of all the options on the table. But I get it. This right now, once you had kids, it stopped being primarily about you and about the two of you, and so you're going to have to make the bed that you lie to. And sometimes people make the bed on top of you, and I'm sorry, but that is the path you're on now.
Okay, last one. Ready?
Yep.
Go quick. You're live from the path. My granddaughter, who is in her early 30s, is expecting her first child. This will be my first grandchild. When she called to invite me to her baby shower, I asked her who was hosting the event. Neither my daughter, her mom, her father, nor I live in the same state she does. My thought was to contact that person and offer assistance, physically and financially. She said that she and her partner were hosting the event themselves. When I said, but hosting your own shower is in poor taste. Usually a friend, coworker, or a family member does the hosting. She became very upset. She said times have changed, and if they want to host, they can, which would ensure everything is done the way they want it. She has been very emotional during the pregnancy. Anyway, she all but uninvited me to the shower and has dodged my calls since the conversation. So, live from the path, am I behind the times? Has that rule of etiquette gone out the window? How can I repair the relationship, which up to this point has been very good?
Is it an etiquette problem?
In her eyes, yes.
But is it really?
I mean,
maybe traditionally from like 70 years ago.
I get tradition makes sense to me. And generally speaking, throwing your own shindig.
That's kind of weird.
I get how it sniffs on. I'm not sure it's rude.
Yeah.
It just seems like a little bit unique.
It's just like none of my friends are good enough for me. So let me
yeah.
do this so it's right.
I'd be worried about that.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone else would screw it up, so I'm throwing a birthday party for myself.
Yeah,
and I get that. I mean, I have those thoughts myself, but I never say them out loud. When my grandmother calls.
Everyone sucks. I'm great.
I feel like you guys are being a little bit harsh on the person that's throwing the party for themselves.
Why?
Because you're being harsh.
Why, though?
Yeah,
Like,
but
I
why?
think it's fine. I don't think it's that selfish. Like, if it's a birthday party, yeah, that's one thing, but I don't think a baby shower is the same as a birthday party.
I don't think
I
it's
just
that
don't.
selfish.
What?
That's what you said. I don't think it's that selfish.
Yeah, from the perspective
it's still
of, like...
selfish, though.
From the perspective... Well, you're right. Thank you for calling me out for that. I don't think it's selfish. I think it's fine. I literally... I take no problem with someone throwing a baby shower for themselves. I don't think it's selfish. I think everybody wants to do it anyway. They're trying to get some stuff for the kids, which is perfectly acceptable, because we all know kids can get super expensive, especially if it's their first kid. They think the world is about to implode and everything's going to be expensive. So they're taking it on themselves to do it. And grandma's coming in and is going, like, isn't it a bit rude of you to do that? And then once you called her out for that and then said she's been emotional the entire pregnancy.
Yeah, it probably wasn't really her spot to say, man, that's rude. Because really, it's the great-grandmother, right? Isn't it her granddaughter who's having the child?
Well, yes,
Yeah.
it's her great-granddaughter who's being born. It's her granddaughter whose party it is.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, if I, as a grandparent, I would never, like, if my grandson does something weird in 15 years, I would be like, hey, that's just unethical.
That's rude.
That's rude. It'd be like, I might tell my wife, man, that's kind of weird, but
She said specifically, that's in poor taste.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree. I don't know. I'm a little bit caught. Why you? What is it that was harsh? I think it said it was non-traditional. I'm missing what was harsh about it. What did Dan and I say that we felt was harsh?
So the statement was on, like, this gal is being selfish and, like, throwing your own party. If I said I was throwing my own birthday party because I didn't want anybody else to throw it poorly,
Yeah.
like, that's a bit harsh on the situation. I don't think she's trying to say...
No, that's the important part. I think if no one else will do a good enough job for you, that does seem weird to me.
Or maybe she wasn't expecting them to do it, so she just threw it herself.
Well, the presumption would be that she also has no friends who offered, which could be true.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like Grandma offered. It sounds like Grandma called after the fact and said, hey, who's doing it? And they hadn't assumed that someone else was going to do it already, so they
What
planned
if
it.
she threw her own bridal shower and her
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not.
bachelorette party.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I think the reason this particular part is important is, like, if you're recognizing where your grandmother might be coming from, it's not normal. I don't mean like abnormal, like there's something wrong with you, but like it's not how it's generally done. Generally, someone does it for you, and especially if the vibe came off that, like, I did it because everyone else sucks at doing it, like, you should know that it might come off that way. If that's not what you're thinking, then fine. But, like, if you're trying to understand at least a little bit, but for second of all, be gracious with your grandmother. I mean, whatever. She just has a way of viewing the world.
She wants to give money.
Yeah.
She wants to make it successful.
Yeah, just go, sorry, Grandma, you're old. The times have moved on. Are you coming or what? Like, there's no reason to make this a firestorm with Granny.
Yeah, I think that could be said on both sides. I
Times
think
have
Grandma
changed.
might be taking it rough too. Like, hey, they said they were doing it on their own. Great, show up and be happy about it. Bring $1,000 that you were planning on financially planning for it anyway.
Yeah,
Great.
I mean, the difference is it sounds like the granddaughter's dodging the calls. So, like, that's not just, I'm going to show up anyway. It sounds like you might make her mad by coming if she's dodging the calls.
Oh, absolutely. I've been in that situation where I don't answer those phone calls because that person has been vicious, or that person has just said some stuff that I didn't care about. So I just went, okay, then I think we don't need to be in a place.
Well,
where we're
right, that's
talking.
what I'm saying. So you can't tell the grandma, like, oh, it's okay, just go ahead and come. Like, I just give off the vibe that she's not
Agreed,
welcome.
yeah. But I think this is more than just one conversation that led to this. It doesn't sound like Grandma called, said, hey, who's doing this? They said, we're doing it on our own. Grandma went, that's in poor taste. And then immediately she goes, well, forget you, Grandma. I never want to speak to you again, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I guess I didn't get that.
They didn't say that.
Yeah, yeah.
Secular says, many of the ironclad rules of an older generation have fallen by the wayside. The one about who can or cannot host a shower is one of them. Write or email your granddaughter, apologize for upsetting her, and explain that you may need an updated version of your etiquette book. Then offer to help with the shower in any way you can. That's all you can do. I wish you luck.
I think that's fine.
Updated edition.
Somebody, both these people should let this go.
Yeah.
There's no reason to set fire in either direction.
I know I'm not going.
I'm certainly not
I had
going.
no idea there was
I'm out.
an etiquette on who could throw a baby shower.
Did you throw your own?
I don't know.
Good sign.
I just want to make sure the dudes aren't invited. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
I don't
Sometimes they have
think
dude
I've ever
ones,
been
like-
to a baby shower.
Oh, actually, that sounds right. That's mostly for ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that I mean, I've been invited to a couple that I've said no.
Yeah,
Because I'm just like,
couples.
I
We're
thought
having
that was pretty
couples. It's
traditional
like
to not have dudes.
no.
But I've also been the guy that shows up and like sets stuff up, and then I'm like, all right, I'm taking off, and then I'll be back when it's time to pick the chairs up.
It seems like the right thing to do to me. Like to have your own. It's like your kid, you know. It's like having a pre-birthday.
Yeah, I mean, I guess where I'd be is people like to do that for you. Like your friends like to do that for you, and so like I would just be aware that someone who wants to serve you and help in that way, like if you just run up and type A, go grab it. You're denying them the ability.
It just wouldn't even cross my mind if someone said, "Hey, baby showers need to happen." I would think, "Okay, it's my kid. I got to do it."
When do I schedule that?
It's not like I'm like, "Hey, pal, my kid's having a birthday. Will you throw him a birthday?"
I would. Well, actually, let me ask you: do you find it odd? Do you schedule your own birthday party? Do you throw your own party and plan it?
No, but I do for my kids.
Yeah, but that's not. No, I'm talking about you.
I have.
So okay, yeah. So this makes sense. Everything where this is coming from. Buva throws his own party.
Yeah, and I said that because I knew there was going to be a reaction.
Yeah.
I did it because my family would refuse to not let me have one. And so I said, fine, I don't want you to be burdened with it, so I'll do it myself. And so I cooked for everything, and I planned everything, and I did everything, so not a single person had to do any work for me. Oh, weren't expecting that, were you?
No.
Yes.
Yeah, I would expect that, and I think
Yeah.
that's wrong. They want to serve you. They want to celebrate your
Yeah, I
birthday.
don't want to be served. Leave me alone.
Wow. You've been listening to Live from the Path on livefromthepath.org. We've been oddly confrontational the last 10 minutes for some unknown reason.
Yeah.
I'll have you know.
I always have to edit
Love you guys.
Nathaniel. All right. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We really do appreciate it. If you got any feedback for us on the show, call us on the Bob Eisenhower Live from the Path complaint line, 515-517-0085. Call or text. We'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, be faithful in the means. God will handle the ends. You've been listening to Live from the Path.